So, Boker Tov, everyone. So we're gonna continue on our journey for finding the nature of the mind. So I invite you to ask questions through the chat. I think that would be nice if you have doubts or questions or anything you would like me, if I can, to clarify. I'd be happy to do that. Especially since we're going to emphasize on the practice of finding it, while we are trying to find the nature of the mind, might be that we are hitting a wall of misunderstanding or doubts. So please do share. It's very beneficial for everyone. So we're going to keep quite some time at the end of the session for question and answers. And to start, I would like to say something about why did we choose the nature of the mind, why to talk about that. And the idea originally was to do a Shamata retreat on that topic. What does it mean, Shamata retreat? Shamata, it means calm, abiding, to stay quiet. But beyond those words, it's the actual practice to train the mind to be focused. Very important. And we can see this practice across every Buddhist tradition, even outside Buddhism, the need for our mind to be peaceful, quiet, serene. And there are many things that can serve as an anchor, an object, a support of our focus. The idea is that to train for Shamata, we can never train for Shamata without focusing on something. We always need our mind to be focused on what we call in Buddhism an object. Remember yesterday we saw the difference between subject, that is watching, knowing, and the object that is known. So it's within that relation of a mind focusing on an object that concentration can be achieved, developed, and trained. And what we are going to do in the next minutes is to choose some very simple object. To train our focus is the breath, which has lots of benefits because it is a link between mind and body, because it's not only calming the mind but calming the body. It's easy to find and there are lots of benefits. It's dealing also with the subtle energies in the body. It's a gorgeous object. The problem of the breath is that first we are connected to the breath with our senses. We feel the tactile activity of our abdomen inflating, for example. But that's also the weakness of doing this, because at a certain point in the practice of concentration, the mind has to shrink a bit, like when you are falling asleep. All the senses are shutting down and you just stay within the mental consciousness. And the mental consciousness is the one of the dreams, of imagination, of thoughts, of comments, of conceptual mind, etc. This is the mind that we want to keep. And keeping ourselves on the breath can hinder our effort to focus solely on the mental consciousness. So it's very good for calming down the chat in our mind, the discursivity, the many thoughts. The breath is gorgeous for that, but it's limited. at least in the way I'm presenting it. So a wonderful object for training our focus is the nature of the mind, where the mind becomes the object of our mind. And we're going to see how we can do that. How can the mind focus on the mind? Isn't it like the sword cutting itself? Is it possible that the mind is both the subject observing as well as the observed? Seems a bit strange, huh? But that's what is actually claimed, that it's possible, and this is really why we are discussing that together, that it is possible, and it's a wonderful object. Wonderful because it promotes very intense clarity in the mind. And clarity is one of the ingredients of concentration. It's not just to be peaceful, it has to be powerfully intense, but in a very joyful way. And another benefit of watching and choosing the nature of the mind for training concentration is that we don't have to create it, because sometimes we use visualized image, like you visualized light circle in your mind and you focus on that to train your concentration. It's very intense and it's a gorgeous object, but you have to create that imagination, that visualized image, so that you can focus on it. But the nature of the mind is like the breath, it's always there. So that's the real good benefit of it. And just, I'm going to give you a few more indications. If it feels a bit complicated, just drop it. The nature of the mind is also a great object for what we call the Mahamudra practice. Mahamudra practice, it means the great seal. And there are various presentations of that particular technique. You can find some in the Vajrayana, which are the more esoterical practices of Buddhism, as well as what we call Sutrayana. If you've never heard these words, it's okay. So training the mind and finding the mind in its conventional sense as being just what we said, clear knowing, this is the first step of the Mahamudra practice. And the second step is going to be to understand the emptiness of that mind. So for those who are curious about this Mahamudra practice, what we're doing now, finding the nature of the mind and focusing on it, this is the first step. And a question was asked about what are the benefits of training our focus to the nature of the mind with regard to the affliction that we have, the trouble, the anger, the hostility, these mental troubles. We're going to see that at the end, probably. So the nature of the mind is a wonderful object to focus on, but it is a bit tricky to find first. It takes time. But once you can actually focus on the nature of the mind, you see how it brings intensity, clarity, serviceability of the mind. Okay? So we are going to start with a bit of Shamata, calm abiding training to refine our focus, and we're going to do that on the breath. So please find a comfortable, nice posture. And we can check our shoulders. And it's great when we can actually witness tension in the body, because then we have a chance, when we witness a tension, to say, when I release it, I'm not only releasing a muscular tension, I try to make it symbolic, like a representation of, okay, this moment is important. I feel a tension in my fingers, in my hands. I release and I say, okay, this moment is important. And we certainly have so many concerns for the future, for what happened, for what will come. But we train our mind that for a moment, we're going to try to abide in what is available here now, our breath, our body, our posture. And it is a form of protection. It's not just not doing anything. We're protecting our mind because being right here in the present, focus, we prevent somehow the exaggerated mind to carry us away with scenario, anticipation, judgmental thoughts, etc., etc. We are protecting ourselves by just sitting. So let's scan the various parts of our body and look for tensions. And release them by making them symbolic. Sitting down and being still doesn't mean we abandon actions. We abandon afflictive movement of the mind, but we know also that we need to regenerate. We need to recover. And that comes through peace, focus, mindfulness. So that after that, when we are dealing with difficulties in life, we are better protected and our decisions are well informed. Let's try to have a good feeling about just being still. Not that we force ourselves not to move, but that we understand it's a gate toward inner transformation, stillness. Let's allow ourselves to enjoy just sitting still on this weekend, today, in this morning. And let's turn our attention to the breath now. The purpose in this first phase is to activate the mental clarity, the intensity, the brightness, the serviceability of our mind by exploring our breath, the in and out. And we can use mental words to help us on the way. We certainly do that for focus, but we also do that for mental clarity, to build an intense mind, but not in a negative way, in a very beautifully positive, active mind. So at first you may not be able to follow what's happening. Maybe every 10 breaths you will have a knowledge of I'm breathing in when I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out when I'm breathing out, but slowly by repeating, you will see that you can follow more in and out, in and out. And on the way, we try slowly to make the breath silent, effortless, and regular. And we're not even meditating right now, we're preparing ourselves. We try to encounter what are going to be the support of our meditation, to be sure on what is it that we're going to meditate on. It's not because we choose the breath that is necessarily very obvious. So we restore that perimeter, that distinction of what is it that we're going to meditate on. Okay, this is the in and out. This is the feeling here, because sometimes even the breath can be a bit fuzzy. And if it's easy for you to follow the in and out by knowing what's happening in real time, you can now start to know the duration, the relative duration of the breath. Is it long? Is it short? Is it just normal? You can add these mental words, short, long, etc. Okay. And now we can start to focus our mind in what we call a placement meditation. Placement meditation means we are not going to analyze the breath just the way we did it. Because what we did now is to go really into the details. Now we take a bit of distance and we are just with the breath. This is when meditation is supposed to start. Placement meditation, at least. Okay? So now you take a bit of distance and you're going to focus on your breath just during 4 cycles. In, out 1, in, out 2, etc. until 4. And there we have to force ourselves to stop. I think one of the common mistakes about meditation is not that we do too less, is that we do too much in duration. Huh? We try to do like directly 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. No, we have to break that into smaller pieces. So we keep joy, we keep enthusiasm, but we do moments of focus that are without gross distraction, without distraction in which you lose totally the object. That's what we saw yesterday, okay? So let's try to do like 4 cycles. Then you stop and then you rejoice. You say, okay, that's okay. Maybe you were not even clear if you were distracted, but by redoing again and again, you will gain a better clarity of, no, I was not distracted. And then we can extend, okay? And we stop, check our posture. And it's fine to have distraction as long as much as possible, we are not totally washed away. We are not drifting totally away from our breath. Let's do it again. And we stop. And you can do that many times during the day. Because sometimes it's not just in the time we have now that we will feel that our mind started to focus much better in a easier way. And it's nice, you work, you have just 5 minutes, you say, okay, just 5 minutes. And we repeat that again and again. Let's do it. Okay. Now I'm going to give you a bit more time and you can try to see if you want to extend a little bit, as long as you don't lose totally the object. And by repeating those elements, at one point you will see that for 1 minute and a half, 2 minutes, maybe you don't lose the object entirely, but you witness many thoughts coming. And I would say it's just when you hit that point that you can extend after, because obviously the purpose of concentration is that we're going to extend the duration of our session without a break. But to do that, we first need to focus firmly on our object. And only after there will come some big distraction, but it will be possible to counteract those because we built a strong beginning. Rather than starting right in a very long session without knowing well the object, without having mental clarity, and then we drift. It's very easy to drift. And we don't have the inner force to counteract the distraction. We need a bit of brightness for that. Okay? So we're going to establish our intention for this session. I did one once in the past to retreat. I said, now let's sit, let's move into action. And one of the retreatants found that comment extremely weird. What? How can we just sit and be active? That's the opposite. We're just doing nothing right now. But when you cultivate the mind, you understand how active is the mind of someone in focus. Because we see long term, we don't see just through what's happening now. We know that by regenerating the mind, we are protecting ourselves, and we make it much easier for us to generate these wonderful mental factors, emotions. It's like for becoming a doctor, we need to be in school. We cannot say to someone in school, yeah, but you're in school, you don't help anyone. No, we need to train, and to train means to sit with the vision that it will benefit us and others in the future. So let's try to think according to that. Use your own words to reestablish your conviction that it's useful what we're doing. And let's try to think that what we're doing that for others on the long term. Okay. Wonderful. So let's refresh what we saw yesterday. We are trying to witness something very hard to spot because of our lack of habit of dealing with things that don't have any shape or color, etc. And there are many benefits in observing our mind. We saw those. So it's a long transition to be able to spot our mind. In the same way that by decreasing the salt in the first days, where we just put a pinch of salt, we don't feel in our soup that it's salty at all, but within days and weeks, we'll start to see, okay, yeah, this is salty. It's there. It's the same with the mind. First, we might not be able to even understand the words of clear knowing, but by repeating the understanding and trying to spot in real time what's happening, there is one moment in which we're going to start to have better idea. And then we're going to find it. We're going to say, okay, this is it. And for those interested, then that can become an object of focus to train our concentration. Awareness of awareness, where the mind is the object to train mindfulness concentration. And the way to find it is to start to understand that we see the world through an appearance, through an aspect. That's what we saw yesterday. That is not our consciousness is in front of the external world, for example, without mediation of any image. We see here through appearance. Sometimes that appearance is actually mental hologram. And I quite like this idea that it's something very similar to what is actually over there, but it's hologram, it's mental. So appearance, aspect, mental hologram, these are, in our context, synonymous. Remember the optical illusion. There must be something extra of what is actually on the screen because it's moving. Where is this taking place? That's the appearance. And sometimes appearance, we say, it's the consciousness that takes the aspect of the object. It's the consciousness that takes the aspect of the object. It's the surface of the lake that takes the aspect of the mountains around. The consciousness takes the aspect of its object in a reflective sense. So clear and knowing, they are presented as the definition of consciousness. And when we say definition, it's what it is. So between consciousness and clear knowing, this is the same nature, this is the same entity. We cannot extract clear knowing from consciousness. It's part of consciousness. And I don't think I mentioned it yesterday, but clear is supposed to be the nature of consciousness and knowing is supposed to be its function. But they are impossible to extract. There cannot be a knowing without a clarity, and there cannot be clarity without knowing. They are fused together as being what is consciousness. We cannot separate them by thinking that one could be without another. very, very important. So clarity refers to the appearance making, to the arising of an appearance, and clarity and knowing to the engagement to the appearance and to the object. And that's the first step of our quest to find it. So the way to do that in practice would be to understand the words well. What does it mean, clear? It means clear. It means that if it was not clear, I would not know anything. There must be something that allow knowledge, cognizance, awareness. And it's something a bit crazy that we never pay attention to that. We never pay attention to the fact that there must be a knowing agent. We are so focused on the screen of the movie, and you never see in a movie theater someone who spent the movie watching on the light from the source where the movie is actually projected. We are all so much onto the object that we never pay attention quite well to the fact that there must be a knower, there must be an active knowing going on for anything to be known. It's very, very strange. So in our process, we look at the beam of light from where the movie is projected. That's our focus now, rather than all the landscapes and everything that happens on the screen. We look back at the source of the light. There is something over there in that room that allow for the image to be cast on the screen. It's really like that. If the power was off over there would be no movie on the screen. And we raise our curiosity by watching the world outside and saying, well, there is something that make possible of an appearance of what I'm actually engaging to now. It's a very obvious, but the obvious is not necessarily the most manifest thing to catch. When you catch it, it's very obvious. And that's really strange about all this topic of the nature of the mind, is when you find it, you say, oh, yeah, of course, but it's hard to spot. So we can look around and say, there must be something that allows for an appearance to be arising, and there's an engagement to that. Otherwise, let's imagine for a second that this appearance factor was shut. I give you a bit of minutes to follow those steps. Look around. Okay. And this step, it's perfectly fine that you don't understand and that you don't find anything. I'm pretty confident to say that it's not within 2 sessions that it can come, but even to have little starts of a glimpse can be very beneficial. Sometimes it's okay, there must be an appearance. That already can be very powerful. I'm knowing through appearance. We're taking that direction of understanding the nature of the mind through the appearance. So then, that's what we saw yesterday. The next step is to understand awareness of awareness, being aware of being aware. So how do we do that? Practically talking. How are we aware of being aware? That's a bit strange, huh? So remember, we have a division of subject, that is the agent of knowing, and object, that is what is known. So whenever there is consciousness, there always is something that is known, because object and subject work together. So here the consciousness becomes the object of consciousness. I'm just aware of being aware. And sometimes maybe we have this sense of, I know that I'm here. That might not be awareness of awareness. That might be awareness of my body being right here. Here we speak of awareness of being aware. So to do that, we have to understand what's happening there. How I can be aware of the beam if it's actually the movie projector that is actually watching itself. It's a bit really counterintuitive to think that awareness can be aware of itself, as if the example given in the text is a sword that can cut itself. It's impossible. The object cannot be the same as the subject at the same time. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to say it's an object and a subject if the agent of the action is the same as the act. I don't know if I'm making the point clear, but you cannot say I'm the responsible of an action if the thing that you're doing is the same as you. So there are lots of debates in the text of how is it happening? And the answer that I could suggest is that what we're focusing on is actually the awareness that takes place one moment before. And even though I've never heard it like that, I think we can confidently say, you remember of being aware. You remember of being aware. And why am I confident? Because mindfulness is that mental glue to an object. That's what we train in Shamata. We train our mental glue to stay focusing on an object. That mental glue is actually a memory. It's remembering something that was previously known. Even though it sounds strange to do mindfulness on the breath, is it really I'm remembering the breath? And in a subtle sense, it is yes. That's why very often mindfulness is translated by memory, by recollection. It's really connected to memory. So in our exercise of mindfulness, of awareness, imagine there are two moments. First moment, it's you are aware of watching the sky outside. And the moment after, you remember the awareness of the sky. Rather than being focusing on the sky, of remembering the sky, you remember being aware of the sky. And I think that really can help you to find it. Because sometimes we think, oh, I have to do that simultaneously, the knower and the knowing simultaneously, and it becomes difficult. So one thing I would like to say also, when you are aware of being aware, it's not that you are only in your mind appear the awareness. Let's imagine I'm aware of being aware of the sky. It doesn't mean that the sky is totally blacked out. Pretty much like when I look at behind in the movie theater, it doesn't mean I'm not going to hear the sound from the movie anymore. It's possible that I'm going to hear the sound, but this is not my focus. My focus is on the awareness. So when you remember being aware, you're focusing on the beam of light, the source of the light, more than what's on the movie screen, but doesn't mean that you're not going to have an appearance of the sky. I don't know if the point is clear. Yes? It's important because sometimes we think, oh, I have to find just the awareness without any object, but there cannot be any awareness without an object to it. So the object will come in the package, but our focus will be on the source of light. So our focus will be on the awareness. So that's a lot to try. Huh? That's a lot to do some tests now. Let's use our eye consciousness now. Look around you. And rather than focusing on the objects, which are, by the way, here anyway, be aware of them, or remember that you are aware of them. Those lights and colors and shapes. Okay, so we're going to do a 5-minute break, and after we'll see few tips on how we can make this maybe a bit easier. Okay, so don't hesitate to ask and write some question. They can be really valuable for everyone. And we'll see each other in 5 minutes.
And also one sentence.
Yeah.
If somebody has a personal dedication that he would like to dedicate the merit that we have for someone, use the break now and put the name on the chat. We'll collect the list and we'll dedicate it in.
So if we take the analogy that I used yesterday of that me, the Stone Age man, when I have a rock in my hand, this is real stuff. I know that this is there. But when that person explained me that the movie comes from the Wi-Fi and it's all in the air, I have the impression that I don't see anything. Therefore, there's nothing. That's what it means that our object is subtle in a sense, that sometimes we think we are not focusing on anything. We don't find anything because it's hard. Because it's hard to find that thing with confidence, as if you had just some kind of very subtle gas in your hand, like alcohol. Just coming out of a drop of alcohol, and immediately it's just becoming gas, and you know it's there, but you don't see anything. It's really the same impression with the nature of the mind, that we train ourselves to accustom to be confident. Obviously not of being confident while we don't find anything, but to be confident that what we found is the nature of consciousness, and yet is not seen, is not heard, is not engaged with the nose. That's really, I would say, in practice, the difficult part of it. But that's the great challenge, to make our mind becoming sensitive to what is subtle. Because when we do that, it will be much easier to pay attention to what's happening inside our emotions, because they are all in the nature of being clear and knowing. So one of the tips I've heard from a retreat on the nature of the mind, imagine, so you're looking through a window. I don't know if you have a window at your place right now, and if the window is clean enough. In the retreat I was guiding 1 month ago on the nature of consciousness, I asked that all the window would be extremely clear. You see the need for that. So if they're not clear, well, you could clean them today and do the test again. So basically is that you have the landscapes that you see through the window, right? Do you see that? I'm sorry if you don't have a window at the moment where you stay. So through the glass window, you see the landscapes. But there are some spots or places on the window where you don't see the glass. There's no reflection there. There's no spots where it's clean. There are spots where you can really not see that there's a glass there. But you know it's there. And that's a wonderful tip for us, to accustom to know that there is something there while we don't see and hear. Because consciousness, we will never ever encountering it by hearing something or smelling something because it is beyond the sense objects. It is not a sense object because it is not matter. It is awareness. It is immaterial. So we have to accustom ourselves to train in this manner to know of things even though we don't see them. So to train with the glass window, train us in being convinced of something that which we don't see. So we do that by the window, we look at the landscape, and we try to raise this conviction. There is a window, and we ask ourselves, do I see it? I don't, but it's there. I know it's there. But I don't see it. Because it's fully transparent. But I know it's there. And once we train with the glass window, then after we can do the same with, we look around us and we are aware of being aware. And then when we ask the question, do I see something? Can I smell my consciousness? We answer to the negative to all these questions, but still we know that we are aware. Let's try for a few minutes. And we can alternate between the exercise of the window and trying to witness that while we are watching an object, our external visual environment. Okay, and there is, during the process of finding nature of consciousness, in which we're going to start to have better clues and probably a bit of, oh, I think there is something there. And that will reinforce into, oh, I think this is it. To, oh, okay, that's it. To the, wow, this is it. And this is when we find our object, and later on we can use the awareness of awareness to just meditate. But we'll do that in meditation, just not with the visual awareness, but with the mental consciousness, the one that is dealing with memories and comments and conceptual minds, etc. So when we find the nature of consciousness and we understand it to be non-material, it has profound implications, which I mentioned yesterday. But the knowledge that we gain is absolutely incontrovertible. It's unshakable. It is coming face to face with something so obvious when we find it that there's no way we can be shaken by different, by someone who would say it's not existing. This is just as I don't know, as concrete as this cup, even though it has no shape, color, and form, and etc. We become very strong in saying, obviously, there is awareness. And that awareness is just this faculty of arising of an appearance and engagement to it, and it must be there, and it is there all the time. I'm getting accustomed to feel the untouchable. And one good benefit also is all the discussion on consciousness then become extremely relative. That people might mention consciousness in psychology, neuroscience, but we're just okay in thinking that we might not point at the same thing, but the thing that we found is unshakable. And we call it awareness, we could call it something else, doesn't matter. But that's something that's been observed for thousands of years by extremely rigorous contemplative yogis and yoginis that develop this science of looking inside that is as precise and as thorough as those who look in the cosmos with telescopes. It has, to my point of view, an extreme validity. Because our inner telescope, at the moment we are looking our awareness, is not shaken by mental afflictions or trouble. We're not exaggerating. We're coming face to face as much as we would hold a tree with our hand and say, this is a tree. It's a very firm conclusion. Okay, so that was the second step, awareness of awareness. And the last one is basically just to put the two together, to be aware of being aware of that clarity and knowing aspect. To be aware of that arising of appearance and engagement with appearance. So in the coming days or weeks, you could spend a bit of time, a few times a day, just doing the exercise of the glass window and see if you try to have a little thread and to go to the thread, to the big ball of wool, to try to see if you can go to the source. And when I was guiding a retreat, like it was 1 month ago, maybe, people were mentioning that their mind was very clear. It brings a lot of clarity in the mind. Many of them told me they had very, very bright dreams also. Why? Because awareness of awareness is a very deep activation of the mental clarity. And I found it also quite joyful. But that's my personal taste, so I don't know if that's valid. So I think that's about it of what we can say. Was there something else? Probably, but I think for the time being, we have matter good enough, maybe, to sustain our practice for the coming days or weeks. It's a quest. It's really, something that takes time. But hopefully, with the help of all these materials on top of the one that I'm going to share, it will sustain your exploration. Okay, so maybe it's time for question and answer. So I'm going to go through those questions. Are the two aspects clear and knowing impermanent phenomena? Yes. For impermanent phenomena, it is sometimes easier to notice it by concentrating on the changes in it. What changes are there in clear and knowing aspect that we can focus on? Well, because clear and knowing, they are the definition, they are actually what is consciousness. Consciousness is impermanent. Why? Because it cognizes things that are changing. If the object is changing, the knower that know the changes is also changing. So yes, consciousness as well as the two aspects of it, clear and knowing, are changing momentarily. Are the two aspects clear and knowing different within a direct perception? Are they different? They are different, but you cannot remove one from another. I would say they are the same entity. Are they different? Yes, but just with names. They are indissociable. During the session, you talked a little about how seeing clear and knowing aspect helps develop sensitivity to emotion. Does recognizing mind as clear and knowing help to reduce and get rid of affliction? How? Okay, so I mentioned yesterday that clear can be also understood in the sense that the nature of the mind is often compared as a sky, and all the content as well as certain of our emotions are like clouds. So once we find the nature of consciousness, and that's a great benefit of it, then we can start to see this aspect of just arising of appearance and engaging to the appearance, and see all the content, the thoughts, the memories, the judgment, as well as the certain of the emotions that we have, craving, jealousy, and we see they are not tainting, as if they were a bit garbage bag floating on the sky, passing by, but they are not going to make the nature stink. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but the nature of the mind is not going to stink because there's a garbage bag that's coming. Even though there are polluted clouds that passes on the sky, the sky, once the clouds are gone, remain clear. And that's a deep understanding of human psyche, to understand that despite all these things that passes, the nature of the mind remains clear. So there are two levels of clear. Clear in just this aspect of arising of an appearance, that's the one we saw, but also clear in a sense of clear light, which is often understood, and I will share that in the sources. Clear light mind can be also understood in the fact that the mind doesn't have inherent existence. But first, to do that exercise of focusing on the nature of the mind can really be liberating in not associating ourselves with the content in a sense, I am lazy, I am sleepy, I'm full of anger. We will see right face to face the source of light, and we will see all these movement of mind as just transitory movement. Just transitory, which means they come and they go, but the nature will remain just luminous. And that act as a profound insight to say, I am not these things. I am not my anger. The anger can be totally gone. Not associated with the clouds. The sky doesn't associate with the clouds. There are lots of benefits to that. I'm not sure if my answer was really clear. Experientially, awareness doesn't seem, that's the one. Hi, François. Since the first retreat with you suggested we take snapshots of our distraction during practice. Is it related to our study now? Okay. So what we're doing in that, and that's a bit related to Alex's question. Once we're accustomed to do that with the sense consciousness, being aware of being aware while looking at something, then at one point we will be aware of being aware of the mental sphere only. And the mental sphere is composed again of memories, mental images, emotions, mental factors, and all this, the space of our mind without thoughts also. And we will see our distraction, but we will focus on the knowing aspect. But because it's a Shamata practice, and I think, Zohar, you probably remember well, we must not just train mindfulness, we have to train vigilance also. So while we are aware of being aware, we will have to monitor our attention so that we are not losing the awareness of awareness in the same way we are not losing the breath. So we are aware of being aware of all this content of the mind, which will help to be in touch with our distraction because we are aware of being aware of all the content of the mind. But on top of that, we will make sure that we are not totally distracted because we could lose also very easily our object being the nature of the mind. So yes, the answer is yes, we will have to monitor our distraction during the practice. Is awareness always focus? No, it can be totally unfocused. What we try to do now is in the context of a focused mind because we want to ascertain it. We want to say, this is it. And this requires focus. But awareness can be totally unfocused, like when we dream or when we are very distracted. Is awareness of awareness always one moment of consciousness perceiving an earlier one? Yes, I would say yes. So I don't know if it's connected to a question that comes after, but you would say, but I don't feel I'm remembering something when I'm trying to find awareness of awareness while watching something. So here we have to understand that it's not because it's a memory that it's a memory of something that happened 10 years ago. It can be just one moment of cognizing the trees outside, and just a moment after, it's so fresh that it doesn't look like it's a memory, but it's actually looking backward as at the awareness of the tree. So it's often that it doesn't look like it's an actual memory, but in Buddhist psychology, we will have to define it as a memory. But it's so close to the moment of actually looking at the trees that it doesn't feel it's a memory. I'm aware of what enables the projection to occur in my consciousness. Sometimes it's experienced as a kind of syncopated split. But this awareness still does not allow me to change the movie. What will be projected? Why is that the fact that I am aware of what I see does not always manage to change the observed phenomena of the emotion that accompany it? Oh, that's so I'm not sure I could be very much an expert in that. In what I'm going to say, and I'm just leaving it. It's up to you. But you could also have, I mentioned it, moments in which you see yourself, or you dissociate yourself with yourself, as if there's really a difference. But one thing you have to pay attention to is that in the context of what we're doing now, it's a pacified mind. It's not an affliction. It's not something uncontrollable. Very, very important, because otherwise we could also have the uncontrollable, frightening feeling of I'm aware of being aware, I'm being aware of being totally different from my body, as if unable to move and things like that. This is in the context of an afflicted mind. Here, it's in focus and it's in control, and it's a valid mind. And it's conjoined with concentration, and it feels pacifying. And so it's a different twist. So sometimes it is experienced as a kind of syncopated split, but the awareness still does not allow me to change the movie. Yeah, so I would say there are different experiences. These are not the same experience. Being aware of being aware, that is clear and knowing, and having the sense of I'm just observing myself now. Because someone asked me during the Shamata retreat, yeah, but when I'm aware of being mad or angry, isn't it awareness of awareness? Well, it's awareness of a mental factor. It's awareness of a function of your mind, but it's not necessarily aware of your mind that is clear and knowing. And it's not necessarily awareness of the basic awareness, which is clear and knowing. I don't know if it's it's very clear what I say, but if it's not, keep that in mind, write down a note, and with your exploration, maybe it will become clearer. So I think that's about it for the questions. We have maybe one question if someone wants to say a question, ask a question out loud, or yes, Abigail.
When I was looking at a ball in the room, in the beginning, I was really going into it and sensing it and feeling all the parts of it and the colors. And then when it was awareness of awareness, I felt the distance. And that's what happens with emotions, right? If you're aware that you're angry, it's not the awareness of the function of being aware that you're angry, right? That's the difference. It's the same as I kind of experience with the ball,
Yes,
isn't it?
you're right. And thank you, because I think this maybe mentions also an element that I have not touched, is that it gives a sense of distance also. You make the difference between the clouds and the sky in the same way you make a distinction between the clarity aspect of your mind that is eternal. In the mental consciousness, it's eternal. It's always been there. It will always be there. And there are stories and memories that passes. And you see that difference. You see the difference between the observer that on the mental consciousness will always be there and those stories that comes and goes. So it gives a sense of, I'm not going to say disengagement, because that's not necessarily the purpose, but of distance, yeah. And I've noticed also, Abigail, that when people do this exercise, that's true that you're not pushed into the content of the objective world. You have a sense of distance.
Mhm.
That's true. I've noticed a few times people giving the same comment to their exploration. What is the relationship between private and general nature of consciousness? I'm not sure I understand private and general nature of consciousness. Maybe I cannot read the name in Hebrews. I'm not as
It's me.
good.
It's
Pardon?
me. It's me.
Its name.
It's me. My name is Guy.
Guy.
Hi. I'm asking the relationships between my nature of consciousness of Guy and the nature of consciousness of everything.
So far as it touches Buddhist teachings, the nature of your consciousness is private. Your consciousness, because otherwise I would say, okay, Guy, lift your arm like me, and you would immediately do. You have agency that I don't have over you. I can lift mine and I cannot make you lift yours. So you have your private consciousness and everyone has his private consciousness, but the ultimate nature of consciousness is identical to all consciousness because they all share the same nature of being empty of true existence, of inherent existence. But within that, we all retain our individual stream of consciousness. But touching that, there are also teachings that say that basically when you reach Buddhahood is like all the drops from individual river going into the same ocean. But you know what's happening on the Buddha ground is really hard to grasp. Because with words, it would be very hard and untenable, unpractical and contradictory to say that we are all one consciousness. No, we are not all one consciousness, for the reason that otherwise, yeah, the lifting arm problem. Okay, so I think, is meditation on the concept clear and the ability of mind to have appearance a meditation on the clear nature of the mind? Is the ability of the mind? Yeah, because clear, yes. Is meditation on the concept? I prefer to say on the guidelines that clear is the ability for an appearance to arise. Because you cannot just say clear, clear, clear and repeat. The clear in the clear knowing of consciousness definition has a very specific meaning. So we have to understand that clear is the arising of appearance. So it's related to the clear nature of the mind, yes. Okay, I think we are good. We're gonna go to the dedication now. how we shall proceed, Nitzan or Yael?
Nitzan, what do we do first, the list or the prayers? You choose.
I think the list.
The list.
But you
Okay.
can, say your
Okay.
dedication.
So we have a list of few people, so we can set ourselves for the dedication part, so we can sit comfortably. Gather all of our good intention and concentration. And we may dedicate all of the merit of this practice, all the positive potential, the positive energy that we have accumulated by this practice. May it be a supportive condition for people who are now in the bardo. And we start with François' cousin who passed away last morning. His name is Alain Labou. He's 56. Suffered from many severe sicknesses. There was a lot of suffering there. May his journey in the bardo be quick and easy. May he attain a high rebirth with conducive conditions in a good family, with resources and welfare close to the path. Find the Mahayana teacher and Dharma friends and have a beneficial life. And we may send this very same dedication for more friends that are in the bardo now. We have the father of Manal Mustafa Abu Wissam and the father of Kobi Uri Vahab that are in the bardo now. And we have Itai Schwarzstein who passed away 3 weeks ago. May all of them have an easy journey and a high and beneficial rebirth. And may their families have a peaceful mind that can bear the pain and the loss. And we may dedicate for Dana and Liora who face difficulties of sicknesses. And we have Nurit Cohen, Ora Maili Naziri, Mishpachat Ben Chaim, Dalia Fleischer, Miriam Lotan, Chaviva Armon, Esther Alterman, יוחאי הקר, עדש ברדש, כל החיילים והאזרחים המושפעים מכל המלחמות המתחוללות בכדור הזה. So we really send our merit to everybody who gets any effect from the war, suffering of body, possession, physical, mental suffering, loss of dear one, dealing with fear and anxiety. May our merit be a conducive condition for all the people to deal with the really heavy crisis of samsara. So we keep all of them in our minds because they are close to us. Zami Weingold, who is also in the bardo, passed away. So we keep them all in our minds while we do the prayers. And because we all know them and we have good connection with them, then our merit gets to them and can be a conducive condition for any healing that is needed. So Nitzan can lead the prayers.
So we can do those two dedications in English. And let's dedicate all our effort and for us attaining Buddhahood and helping so many people suffering, and our heart can be open to everyone. Let's do it in English. Through the merits of these victorious actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. And for bodhicitta, the enlightened mind, may the precious supreme bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. And may the supreme view of emptiness, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. And also this we can do in English with dear François. For all our gurus, all our teachers, all our people that shows us the pure Dharma, that they're embodied in His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. Let's read together. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chen Rezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And this we will do in Hebrew. תפילה לשובו המהיר של המזוהה רימפוצ'ה, כלומר הוא כבר חזר, אבל שנוכל למצוא את הגלגול שלו, שנוכל לפגוש אותו, נוכל ללמוד ממנו, ושיהיה לו את כל התנאים המיטיבים לחיות וללמוד וללמד אותנו. ביחד, מורה שאין שני לו, מועצת הצאצאים של המנצחים, שרווקות ופרטיקות בודהות. לא זה גם נצח, אב ובניו, יחד עם המאסטרים של השושלת. כל האובייקטים של לקיחת מקלט של יבשות אינסופיות. אנא העניקו את הסגולה והחסד להגשמת התפילה הזאת כאן ועכשיו. בעודך מחזיק בתורות הלימוד השלמות ויקרות הערך של המוני, ומפיץ אותן באמצעות הסברתן ותרגול שלהן, עתית את שריון הסובלנות שלעולם אינו אומר נואש. גורו יקר שאין דומה לו אליך אני פונה ומבקש. בשעה שחתרת באופן חד נקודתי ושאיפתך למען תורות הלימוד של המנצח, השאר היחיד שדרכו מגיחים ועולים כל תועלת מיטיבה ואושר, ולמען אם היצורים החיים הלכת לפתע לשלווה, איזה אובדן עצום. אף על פי כן, באמצעות האמת הבלתי מתעתעת של ברכות האוקיינוס של שלוש אבני החן, וגלי הבודהיצ'יטה האדירים של צאצאי המנצחים, לא חיוך של התגלמות מחדש, יזרח במהרה בתפארתו עבור תלמידים ברי מזל. ותפילה לשלום עולמי, לשלום בכל היקומים, שכתב חיבר טנקטון גיאלפו ותרגם למזוהה רימפוצ'ה לאנגלית. נקרא אותה בעברית. הומני פדמה הום. האחד המנצח, הגדול האוהב, בודה מיטריה. הנשגב הנעלה זה המביט בעין חומלת. היגריבה הזוהם המנצח. ג'צונטרה הטהורה לחלוטין שהשיגה שלמות במלואה ועוד. רק עצם שמיעת שמותיכם הקדושים מסלקת את כל הסכנות. מושאי מקלט שהחמלה היא טבע מהותם, אנא הקשיבו. כאשר היצורים, בעלי התודעה, בתקופה של סכסוכים וחמש ההתנוונויות, עם התפרצות האוקיינוס הגדול של קרמה שלילית וקנאה, מתייסרים בסבל העז הכרוך בלחימה ובסכסוכים. אנא יבשו את הסבל הזה בעזרת כוחן של החוכמה והחמלה הנעלות. בעזרת המטרת שפע ממטרים של נקטר טוב הלב האוהב על היצורים הנודדים המלבים את התלקחות אש השנאה, אנא העניקו ברכות שיכירו אלו באלו כמי שהיו עבורם אב ואם, ולאחר מכן הרבו עושר ומכלול תנאים מבורכים. מי ייתן והמוני הרוחות המרושעות הזדוניות החודרות לתוך הרצף המנטלי ומשנות והופכות אותו באופן מיידי לתודעת האסורה, לא תפעלנה אף פעם באזור הזה בארץ ובעולם מעתה ואילך. אני מבקש אפילו עבור כל היצורים בעלי התודעה שמתו במלחמה, שמאותה עת ואילך ינטשו את כל הקרמה השלילית, סיבה ותוצאה, ועד לאחר שנכנסו ונולדו בשדה העושר העילאי, ארצו התאורה של הטבעה, שיובילו את כל האחרים והאחרות לאותה ארץ תאורה. אנא ברכו את כל אותם אלה הנולדים והאמיתיים, יצורים סמסריים, שיהיו להם חיים ארוכים ללא מחלות, שירגיעו כל סכסוך ומלחמה, שיהנו מ10 הפעולות המטיבות, שיזכו לגשם בזמנים הנכונים, שיהיו להם תמיד יבולים טובים, ושהסביבה כולה וכל תושביה יתברכו בכל טוב וישגשגו, בזכות המציאות המוחלטת התאורה מעצם טבעה, מתוך כך שלתופעות יש מציאות מוחלטת, סיבה ותוצאה אינן מוטלות בספק, ובזכות חמלתו של הגורו, בזכותה של ישות התודעה החתומה, המושלמת במלואה, ובזכותם של הנהלים הנדירים, מי ייתן והתפילות הנרחבות הטהורות הללו תתגשמנה במלואן. And yeah, the final dedication from Amazopa Rinpoche that translated this prayer in Hebrew ביחד באמצעות כל הזכויות הצפונות שנצברו בעקבות פעולת הנגשת התרגום הזה. מי ייתן שכל מקום שהוא בו נמצא הטקסט הזה בכל מדינה שהיא, כמו גם קריאת התפילה הזאת, יהוו סיבה לכך שלבבותיהם של כל בני ובנות האדם יתמלאו בטוב לב אוהב ובודיצ'יטה ובמחשבה להיטיב בלבד ולא להזיק. מי ייתן שתעלה ותזרח שמש השלום והאושר, והלוואי שכל המלחמות המתחוללות באשר הן תפסקנה לאלתר. מי ייתן שתשרור הרמוניה ויהיה שלום. מי ייתן שלא תהיינה עוד לעולם מלחמה או אלימות.
לולה.
Voilà. So
We have,
until next
also,
time.
sorry,
Yeah.
François,
Yeah.
we're also adding to our dedication Rachel Chen ומתי כספי. They're both also in the bardo. And may they have a good next rebirth and close to teachers. And yeah, thank you so much.
תודה רבה.
תודה רבה.
תודה, פרנסואה.
So we shall see in the future, hopefully. And
Soon,
my
soon.
best wishes for your practice. And maybe, yeah, for the coming weeks, you can go through the material I'm going to send and keep exploring that to take it as a topic for your exploration. Because again, it takes a bit of time to be accustomed to that. So you'll have some things to chew, hopefully. And yeah, I hope in the close future we'll come to see each other
Very soon, I hope.
really in direct contact to each other. So all the best for this very troubled time.
Maybe we can plan another weekend like this. I think it's very beneficial.
Yeah.
If you could find some time for us, François.
Yes, okay.
Just like this weekend.
Yeah,
It's great. Like to continue with this subject.
okay. Yes, I'd be happy.
Okay, so we'll talk more about it.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be blessed and
תודה רבה.
my best wishes.
Thank you.
תודה רבה.
תודה רבה, ביי ביי.
תודה.
להתראות.
Peace out.